Hello, true duelists. My name is Craig Fee, and as always, welcome to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Update. Whoa mama, there's some new cards this week. But before we get into the Darkworld hype, we can talk a bit about the new set announced for the TCG. Yes, the Holiday Box 2022 will be Magnificent Mavens, whose set name will presumably be MAMA or Mama. So to complement your dude cards, you can now also get Mama. The set has been announced to release on November 4th of this year with the retail price of $24.99 per box American. The box will come with one pack of 6 potential designs from 70 sleeves, presumably the same as the OCG's Holiday Box, with 2 designs each for Sky Striker, Witchcrafter, and Mayakashi. And most importantly, 4 packs with 5 cards each, all in ultra rare, with some select cards getting the Egyptian hieroglyphic rare last seen in King's Court on the God cards. Fancy! Most notably for this set are the reprints and imports. Starting with the reprints, the BLS Link and Sword Soul Moye. Could the BLS Link finally become affordable? Based on its last couple of reprints, no. Fans of the upcoming high tier 1 or possibly even tier 0 threat of Ishizu tier elements can look forward to the Ishizu card seemingly coming in this set as well, as one of her cards does appear on the box art. I can't wait to mill 10 cards a turn. That won't be broken in any sense. I expect this one will sell well, and we can all breathe an air of relief that it's not for the Witchcrafter or canonically 13-year-old Ray sleeves. Also worthy of noting, the reprint of Forbidden Droplets in Duels from the Deep is currently sitting at about $50 American on TCG Player, which is a better deal than the $75 MyLocals is charging for it. Which means you can now choose between a playset of Droplets or a single copy of Prosperity. Progress. For more TCG news, we got some of the prizing for the 2022 Championship events, namely this new playmat of the OG BLS Envoy of the Beginning. Why now instead of, say, 2004 when this card was relevant? That's a great question. I suppose it's because a Fluwanderese mat would look too nice. Granted, I think we already got one, but my point still stands. Speaking of out-of-place announcements, we got 2 tokens confirmed for OTS 19, which should be exciting, as 2 separate decks in the meta are playing tokens that still need to have official versions of them printed. Sword Soul and Adventure both summon tokens constantly, so here's a perfect chance to print them while they're still relevant. Except no, you idiot, this is actually the perfect chance to print Slime and Mask tokens. Who isn't playing Jam Breeding Machine? As you might expect, the community was pretty annoyed by this, and everyone on Twitter took the chance to make jokes about the whole, breeding part of Jam Breeding Machine. Just wait until they learn about the 3rd phase in the Digimon TCG. It's gonna be a dark day on Twitter, I'm sure. Master Duel saw the start of its Limit 1 event with a special ban list of every single card in the entire game that isn't already banned being put to 1. Coinciding the event is a duel pass with the potential rewards including a Warrior Digrapher icon, Avramax wallpaper, and most importantly, the literal GOAT mate. So get dueling and enjoy the least true Draco-filled event in the entirety of Master Duel's history to date. Huge news came out of the OCG this past week, with their newest ban list hitting all the present threats, and also Drytron, because apparently Konami really does just hate Tatsum that much. The OCG has banned Halka-Fibrax, Vanity's Emptiness, and Totally Awesome. As someone who's been playing a ton of Paleo Frog lately, I hate this. Still, it seems Splight might just be the deck to finally kill the killer of all tuners. And I'd comment on Vanity's Emptiness, but that's just long overdue, let's be real here. For their limits, they gave Branded a slap on the wrist with Opening going to 1, Tatsum some hate as mentioned with the limiting of Ava, and Spellbook of Judgment going to 1, which I suppose might actually be okay in the current metagame. End phase searches are during the end phase, and what are a bunch of normal spell cards going to do against a Sword Soul board? But I did play in 2013, and the thought of this going to 1 terrifies me to my core. Please just ban Jowgen when you do it in the TCG. Just for me, just please. Beyond that, their list was nothing of notable importance to me, with exceptions maybe going to the fact that they have 3 Party Boat while we still have none, and Divine Wind of the Mist Valley went to 3 there, which means we might get it back here, Copium. My Harpies would like it. In other news, the 3 deck themes for the next deck build pack were also shown, continuing the theme of mecha, anime girl, and monster. Rescue Ace, or R-Ace, or Race. A righteous ace monster that bravely stands up to any threats. The jokes just line up. That's your mech card of choice. Mikanko, probably said that wrong, is the ritual that advents through a mysterious dance and is your anime girl this time round. And Puriri is an Xyz monster that grows when it receives love, which is a sentence that does not make me think of trading cards. Not a whole lot to say here. This one looks cute. This one looks like 6 other decks that you've already seen, and this looks like about 400 other decks that we've already seen. Just as an added fun fact, the other day I saw a pie chart of topping decks in the OCG, and when I saw the slice for Exorcister, I genuinely could not identify it at first. It took me a second, realizing, yeah, Exorcister's the meta-relevant counter to Splight or whatever, and the art just genuinely reminded me of, like, way too many other decks. I could not figure it out. Gotta love the diverse art in this game. In more immediate news, Darkwing Blast has had more reveals, starting off with some new Vernalizer Fairies. Vera, the Vernalizer Fairy Goddess, is a new boss of sorts. It can target a face-up monster the opponent controls and just take it, and then make it an Earth attribute. Why the hell not? Just give him a Snatch Steal. It can also quick effect revive an Earth monster from your graveyard, and once per turn, if you have 5 or more Earth monsters on your field, you can negate a monster effect and destroy the monster. As I understand it, that isn't an activated effect, it'll just negate the effect at resolution, which means this would stop an access code. So, yeah, a pretty good boss monster for the deck. Fairy Seedlings and Haze is a cute little duck that can discard itself and another monster or Vernalizer Fairy card to add an Earth Fairy from deck to hand and then special an Earth monster from your grave. And doing so locks you into Earth monster effects for the turn. It also makes all non-Vernalizer Fairies lose 600 attack, and it's decent and it's cute, and apparently it's Madolche support, so have at it, Madolche fans, you go off. And lastly is their field spell, which gives all monsters you control 1,000 attack if you have 5 or more Earths in your grave, and can banish a Vernalizer Fairy and Flower Buds, their in-archetype Super Compulse, from hand or grave to add the Goddess earlier mentioned from deck to hand. It's a searchable Snatch Steal, so you'll love to see it. And when you summon a Vernalizer Fairy from your graveyard, you can return 1 card in either player's field or graveyard to hand. No, I don't like this deck anymore. I'm just a salty little Yugi boomer. Quit bouncing my stuff. Quit negating my things at resolution. Give me the cute duck, not them. Also getting support out of nowhere is the Dracoslayer archetype. Yes, the first Draco deck to plague the meta back in the Pendulum era of Master Rule 3. Ignis Phoenix, or Little Ignister based on the artwork, is a piece of support for both Dracoslayer and Ignites. Its Pendulum effect lets you shuffle a face-up Pendulum monster from your extra deck into the main deck to add a non-Pendulum Dracoslayer or Ignite monster from your deck to your hand. Oh, and that was almost good, until the non-Pendulum clause. Its monster effect means it's always treated as an Ignite card, and if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, can special summon a Dracoslayer or Ignite monster from the deck, and then treat it as a tuner. Oh, never mind, it actually is really good for the monster effect. Dynamite Power Load is an awesome name, and is also Dynamist support. Its Pendulum effect lets you target a Dracoslayer or Dynamist in your other Pendulum scale and special summon it, and its monster effect always treats it as a Dynamist card, and if tributed, lets you add a Dracoslayer or Dynamist monster from face-up extra deck to hand, except for a copy of itself. That's also decent, which as a fun fact is par for the course for any Dynamist card. Decent. The last monster announced is Majesty Pegasus, whose Pendulum effect lets you add a Dracoslayer Pendulum monster from deck to hand with a different name than the Dracoslayer or Magispector card you'll need in your other Pendulum scale in order to activate it. And it then destroys 1 card in your Pendulum zone. It has 2 monster effects, 1 quick effect to discard itself to give all your Dracoslayers the Magispector effect to be untargetable and indestructible by card effects, and its other effect is that if Pendulum summoned or summoned by a Dracoslayer card effect, will add any field spell from deck to hand, and then discard a card. If it isn't immediately clear, this one is an official fuck you from Konami to anyone who plays Magispector, being the only one of the 3 to not support the archetype it's referencing lore-wise. Their last card is a new field spell, Dragonic Pendulum. It gives all Dracoslayers 300 attack and defense, and if a Dracoslayer you control activates its effect, you can target and destroy one card on the field. Oh, and if it's destroyed, you also get a mini Draco face-off of sorts, taking one Dracoslayer or Drake Overlord monster from your deck, and either special summoning it or adding it to your hand. These are all great for each of their decks, except for Magispector, because again, fuck you, and is apparently the new best deck according to Pend God Triff himself. No bias there. I am, for one, excited at any chance to pretend it's still the mid-2010s, and as someone who was dumb enough to play Draco Pals at YCS Toronto 2016, this support fills Mr. Craig Fee with some nostalgic glee. I actually wrote that. Also getting nostalgia support this week, Darkworld had 4 of its new cards for the upcoming structure deck revealed, and good Christ, they're actually good. Rainbow, Supreme Overlord of Darkworld, can special summon itself from the grave by bouncing a level 7 or lower Darkworld from the field to your hand. And if discarded to grave by card effect, will add a level 5 or higher Darkworld from deck to hand other than a copy of itself. And as a bonus, if it was discarded by an opponent's card effect, you can also special summon a level 4 or lower Darkworld from your deck to either side of the field. Wow, support for Ceruli. And it still isn't worth it to play Ceruli. That's insane. They've also got a new boss monster as a fusion. Grapha, Dragon Overlord of Darkworld. The third Overlord of Darkworld is... It's okay, this one isn't like the new Crystal Beast fusion. This one's good. When the opponent activates a normal spell or trap card or monster effect, you can make that effect become your opponent discards one card, which is a quick effect and will trigger your Darkworld's main and bonus effects. Actually solid. Oh, and if it leaves the field by the opponent while fusion summoned, you can summon a little Grapha that was either banished or in your grave, and then each player discards a card. Fantastic. And part of what makes this card so good is their new fusion spell. Darkworld Ascension is a quick play and a joke I'll be making many times in the future about ascending that banishes materials for a fiend fusion monster from grave to fusion summon, or if you're summoning a Darkworld, can discard the materials instead to trigger your effects and summon the new boss. And if that wasn't good enough, during the main phase, you can add it from the graveyard to your hand and then discard a Darkworld monster, recovering itself and again, proccing your effects. That is how you make fusion support, because that's good enough that I'm going to learn to hate Darkworld all over again. It's 2012 forever, baby. We also saw Darkworld Puppeteering, a quick play DD Crow on crack that targets and banishes 3 cards from any graveyard and then discards a fiend, and during the main phase any turn after it was sent, can banish itself from grave to return a banished fiend to hand. Each of these cards that isn't a fusion is searchable off Snow, and all of them synergize well enough with their power cards like Gates and Grapha that the deck is already playing as its strategy. All in all, it looks awful to face. I, for one, am excited for our new Darkworld support, as it means a chance for a breath of fresh air. Instead of a Shizu Tyralements milling my entire deck, sometimes Darkworld will just make me discard it. Actually, those stuff looks pretty dope. I think my friends are going to learn to hate this too. I might play it. Lastly revealed was a teaser for a new VJUMP promo, the Green Ninja. It'll have an effect that has something to do with battle positions, and based off some of the other ninjas that exist, it'll probably help out flip effects. The tier 1 threat in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Flip monsters. Can't wait to report on it. In community news, I genuinely don't remember this week's episode of Progression Series. I do remember that Gage lost again, and nothing noteworthy was pulled. With SEMO leading 12-9 on an 8-duel win streak, 2 whole months, we are rapidly approaching the point where Gage will ban Berserk Gorilla. What a world. Everyone in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community seems to be using their cats for easy likes, apparently, as my Twitter feed has been showing me, namely Triff, and then 5th-rate Duelist back-to-back on my feed. Clearly, I need to start using my cat for likes too, because as a YouTuber, it is my obligation to mindlessly follow trends. Yeah, that's right, Ren, it's time to earn your rent. Isn't she adorable? And that's all I've got this week, so that wraps up the update. As always, I'm your host, Craig Fee, and make sure you subscribe to YGO Strats for next week's update, and so that you too can become a true duelist.